A former chief police officer talking about music? You didn't expect that, I'm sure. But music is such a huge part of our culture here in Northern Ireland, and an immense part of my childhood and my adult life. Ballads, marching tunes, classical music, hymns, psalms, love songs, you name it. It's all been right within our souls, hasn't it? Just look at someone with advanced dementia and realize how they can remember music from their childhood with relative ease. When I was a child, I learned to play the piano. Here I am. I haven't changed a bit. And in one of my practical piano exams, the examiner noted at the bottom of my mark sheet the infamous words that my mother reminds me of often: "She will make a player." But in my piano lessons, I quickly discovered that I have the dubious gift of being able to play by ear. So that means if you sing the song, I'll play along. We might put that to the test later. But in my police career, I was invited as a member of the Police Service of Northern Ireland Command Team to a memorable evening dinner in the Áras an Uachtaráin, the President of Ireland's official residence. And the President at the time was Mary McAleese. And she invited the whole PSNI Command Team, together with the Command Team of the Garda Síochána, the police service in the Republic of Ireland, to an evening dinner. And it was fabulous. The food was delicious, the fine wine was generously poured, and the crack was mighty. And we know on the island of Ireland that crack has nothing to do with drugs, just for clarity. It was a wonderful evening, and the conversation was flowing. And after the meal, the President invited us into her drawing room. And in the corner of the room, I spotted a beautiful Steinway grand piano, although I didn't pay much attention to it. And after a wee while, the President sidled up to me, leaned forward, and said quietly into my ear the career-defining words, "I believe you play a few tunes." This could go horribly wrong, I thought. But I sat down at the President's invitation at the Steinway grand piano in the Áras an Uachtaráin and played a few carefully selected tunes. And there was a great sing-along, a good Irish sing-along, after which the President observed that it was the best example of cross-border harmony she had ever witnessed. But of course, this experience got me thinking about my first point. In learning to play the piano by ear, I never properly learned to read music, to my eternal regret. And that means that I can only play the songs that I know. So my repertoire is limited to what I know. And there's a whole lot of beautiful music out there that I simply can't play because I never learned to read music. And don't we all play music by ear? Don't we all play the music that we learned as children, that we grew up with? The familiar sounds, the familiar views, the same old conversations that we've always had. And we miss the opportunity to play and read new music. That might be a new conversation, new experiences, stretching ourselves outside of our comfort zones to really experience something brand new. A new conversation, a new perspective, a new idea on the world's problems, a new view, and to sense check the views and opinions that we've always held. When I was Deputy Chief Constable, I tried to do this by learning Irish, learning to speak and pronounce some Irish. And of course, in Northern Ireland's divided society, that wasn't necessarily music to everyone's ears. But language is about conversation and connection. And in learning a new language, it definitely opened new doors for me. And don't we need to challenge the music that we play in our heads too? The refrain that says, "I'm not good enough. I don't belong here. I don't have a point to make at this table. This is a man's job, or that's a woman's job. I don't have an important role to play." If that's the music that you hear in your head, then you definitely need to learn to read new music. My second point is about listening to learn, not to teach. When I'm learning a new piece of music, I have to focus on the music, to listen to it over and over again. I can't do anything else at the time. I can only focus on the music. I have to listen not just to the tune, the song, the melody, the bit that you might sing, but I have to listen to the harmony, the light, the shade, the dynamics, the rhythm, the beat, all of the notes. Each have their own place in the rich harmony. Isn't a good conversation like that, where you're really focused? You're not having an eye on your mobile phone. You're listening to what the other speaker is really saying. Asking yourself, what is the message behind these words? What are these words that they've chosen? The light, the shade, the rhythm, the dynamics? What are they actually saying? Am I prepared to have my mind changed by this conversation? And if I'm not prepared to have my mind changed, am I prepared to respect and learn from a different viewpoint than my own? Listening to learn is critically important. I found this especially so when I was working with victims and survivors of historical clerical child abuse and mother and baby homes. Listening to learn from their lived experience was critically important, because if we're impatient to interrupt and teach and make our point, then we're certainly not listening to learn. And it's especially important if you're chairing a meeting that you listen to learn, because if you don't, then people will stop contributing. What is the point in making my point if it's not going to be listened to? And if you're sitting at that table, make sure you make your point. My final point is about writing a new score. When Belfast hosted the World Police and Fire Games in 2013, it was an amazing opportunity for our home city. Thousands of athletes coming from all over the world to take part in a sporting event here in Northern Ireland. And I had the privilege of being chair of the World Police and Fire Games board. But of course, at that time, there was a lot of concern in our divided society that the story of the Belfast Games would be about, guess what, flags and anthems. So thinking ahead, I asked the pipe major of the PSNI pipe band to write an anthem for the World Police and Fire Games, and he did so beautifully. And he called it Mary's Air, named after Lady Mary Peters, the patron of the World Police and Fire Games. And her world record for the pentathlon remains to this day, which she set in Munich in 1972. So Mary's Air was played by agreement with the World Police and Fire Games Federation at all of the medal ceremonies. And in doing that, by focusing on what unites us rather than what divides us, we didn't just avoid controversy, but we left a beautiful legacy of harmony for future games in years to come. Our city of Belfast left a beautiful gift for the World Police and Fire Games community for the future. And by focusing on what unites rather than what divides, we achieved a beautiful thing. And Belfast achieved an amazing success. And the story of the Belfast Games, it was the thousands of volunteers who helped us to deliver the games. The 10 days of glorious sunshine, can you believe it? And the friendliest and most successful games ever. Those are not my words, those are the words of the World Police and Fire Games Federation. So what if we all focused on what unites us rather than what divides us? What if we all created a vision of harmony? An ambitious vision for Northern Ireland that unites rather than divides. Couldn't we achieve an amazing thing too? If we reach out the hand of friendship, if we build a bridge over troubled waters, if we use our creativity and our talents to build relationships of trust, couldn't we build an amazing future for Northern Ireland? We can't change the past, we all know that, but we can influence what happens today and tomorrow. It's up to us. It's in our hands. So in closing, learn to read new music. Never underestimate the power of a piece of music. When Handel sat down to write Messiah, I'm sure he had no idea of the worldwide impact it would have, even to this day. So never underestimate the power of a piece of music. Learn to read new music, listen to learn, and write a new score. And together, we can all leave a rich and lasting legacy of harmony for generations to come. Thank you.